Demba Jim Den the Jinsha Wanda Jumba Yanda. Zobe Sanje Riba Dansha Sundem. The Horesha Vanji then Jimba Juvan Deva Kaloju. Nana Meva Lada Menanje Demba Sanje Jumden. Bejawa Shaja to Lama Chance. Should Jaso Shiho Demba Jim Den the Jinsha. Jumba Yanda Zobe Sanje Riba. Shazun Demba the Horesha Vanji then Jimba Juvan. Kaloju Lada Meva Lada Menanje. Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Shaja. Saselo Judo Jazo Jevo Demba Jumden de Shisha. Rajamba Yanda Vazobe Sanje Ribado Shazu. The Varishavan Jiden Jamba Juvon de Kalo Juvan. Sada Menanje Demba Sanje Jumden de Bejo. Shaja Tuba La Saselo Judo Jazo Jevo. Kanze Kanyen Zovo Jatamze Sajen Deno. Mali Jiden de La Jojo de Zekeva Juma Chaz. Namda Goma Chodo Susawa Yishi Jasu Seyu. Chaban Jiden Sumanda Meko Gombo Shonye Jama Chaz. Senjon Demba Chimen Daveshi, Sandon Dava Jama Chaz. Yuri Jenda Seva Sumaja, Nyame Jenje Jama Chaz. Gombo Tuji Jedemba, Tumji Jembe Demba. Sonama Yenden Jasu Jen, Lishin Shama Chaz. Taben Desha Chaban, Giving as one. Chido Denama Shogyo, Shinju Jama Chaz. 全年这边老年的老把大大人，新给他把也得给对老年长子，另外经验没下新给我不说说吧，让给新的样子的天天上街的吧，干嘛让人嘛没的就嘛些吧去，没那么老大真大吧，就些全都得的，说他们的他们这些吧有可帮他们的经济上的，拿到7月老周，7月说那周往这往这说。
To the teacher, the blessed one, full destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata and Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate and offerings and go for it. To the teacher, the blessed one, full destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya land, I prostrate and make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When those 3 humans who were born on this earth, you paced off 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. Here your bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science fixed like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are now. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, teacher having all understanding, the fear of miracle qualities like the vast ocean. To you, the one gone to vastness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path of liberation, the holy faith qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue and restoration. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion of trouble to or all, a dream, a flash of lightning, see conditioned things as such. Through these prayers may sentient beings attain the way of all see. Subdue the flow of thoughts, and get delivered from the ocean of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanjay Shano Soje Shano Chanchu Pado Tandi Jasus Nagi Jizon Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanjay Jubus Sanjay Shano Soje Shano Chanchu Pado Tandi Jasus Nagi Jizon Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanjay Jubus Sanjay Shano Soje Shano Chanchu Pado Tandi Jasus Nagi Jizon Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanjay Jubus Sanjay Shano Soje Shano Chanchu Pado Tandi Jasus Nagi Jizon Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanjay Jubus
I go for refuge into my mountains, to the Buddha of Dhamma and Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and good perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge into my mountains, to the Buddha of Dhamma and Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and good perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge into the mountains, to the Buddha of Dhamma and Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and good perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Gede Pumbo Dayana, Jadan Chiba Jada Juru, Gede Pumbo Namneshi, Pumbo Sinye Mebe, Danya Yoba Mayena, Dagi Yoba Kano Juru, Dada Dagi Shibe Jira, Nanjima Nyanzime, Nanjima Nyanzime Kan, Daya Yoba Mayende, Nanjima Nyanzime, Kaga Toro Mudu, Nanda Shiranya Dana, Dada Dagi Nyamzana, Nyewan Leba Kajishi, Tasiba Tekewa Se, Leda Nyumo Sebe Tara, Leda Nyumo Namdo, Teta Trile, Trebande, Tomba Nyingi Dago Sheja Dajuja, Dame Sheja Debaju, Sanjana Jada, Omega Meja, Jebra Shawan Doba de Simjuju, Lobezu, Majabada, Chunin Yanga, Tamja Yanda Yanda Me, Yanda 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 Me, Yanda Me, Sanjay. Sheneshime Shiva, Jobanam Jama, Jobanam Domino, Tende, Kana Tende, Kanjuma, Tende, Reshit, Yeme, Tende Shima, Tishim, Sanjay, Venom, Temba to Sinju, Tujimania Tadem, Cheva Mania, Rosanja, Major, Donald Joseph, Rosanja, Temba Meda, Rabbit, and other chair that was Session, Julia, Kangi, the engine, there was a government, Chibami, Tade de Medition, Jovan, Jishan, Zobes, Tabata, Charles. So we're on page 238. Huh? 238. Yeah, 231, last, I think, page. Question. Now, with respect to such instance, the perceptions of the false object due to one's sense organ being impaired by, impairment of mental consciousness by the conditions such as sleep, perception of magical horses and the elephant are mirages, grasp as water, and so on that occur waking states. It may well be true that even ordinary worldly cognitions can realize that such perceptions are distorted. However, what is apprehended falsely by the mind impaired by the inferior philosophical tenets cannot be
cognized and distorted by the ordinary worldly cognitions. How then are such things presented as distorted falsely, solely from the perspective of the world?
Are we on page 231?
Yeah, 230.
Okay.
We are not in 231. Oh, it's, maybe not that one. 237 or 237.
Yeah.
37, 38.
I had marked it at 238
Oh,
about the middle of the
yes.
Are these? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's familiar. So I already see. Okay, 38. Questions: are these phenomena like vast and so on true from perspective of the convention of all beings who are not fully enlightened? Or are these same individuals from the perspective of whose conventions these are not true? So is a conventional truth. So conventional reality is, appears to be true for which part of mind, or who are those sentient beings? Who are those persons that sees every conventional reality as a truly existence? So, who are those persons that conventional reality at every time that appears to their mind, still there is no apprehension of truly existence of the conventional reality. So which means ordinary sentient beings and the hearer and the solitary realizers who are not attained arhat, and the Bodhisattvas, below the seventh bhumis. So the conventional reality appears to be truly existing to those sentient beings. Now, Bodhisattvas, seventh bhumi, and arhat, and Buddhas. So conventional reality appears to them, but never see them truly exist. So vast and so on from the true perspective of the convention of all beings who are not fully enlightened. So reply, phenomena like form, right? Form, sound, and so on. Form, sound, and so on, which are defined as the conventional truth, says Chandrakirti. These, in fact, possess the nature of the being contrived for the Sharvaka and Pratika Buddha and the Bodhisattvas who have abandoned the afflictions of ignorance and perceives the conditions world to be like a mirror image. These phenomena are not true for them because these beings have no pretensions, no pretension of them being true. So, so the hearer arhat and the solitary arhat or bodhisattvas above the seven bhumis, 8 bhumi, 9 bhumi, 10 bhumi, enlightened beings. So, their perspective, that when they see the conventional realities, never appears the conventional reality truly exist. Right? So other than that, every sentient beings, even the first bhumi, second bhumi, so one's returners, non-returners, even the noble beings, of course, these ordinary sentient beings, right? Because they don't, true arhats and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, seven bhumis, because they do not have any the affliction of ignorance. So they have abandoned the misconceptions. So this is pretty much explaining that why sentient beings, ordinary sentient beings, are often, generating these afflictive emotions, because your ignorance is very strong, and everything that appears to the mind, we tend to believe these are truly exist. And then Bodhisattvas, noble beings like first Buddha, second Buddha, third Buddha, fifth Buddha, sixth Buddha. So they too have things appears truly exist, and at the same time they have the realization emptiness. They say this is not truly exist, but it appears to them as it truly exists. So ordinary sentient beings appears to truly exist. We believe that it truly exists. Right? So so this is kind of seven bhumi and the arhats, enlightened, are already experiencing the freedom from the misconceptions. Right? As to the meaning of this statement, there are three kinds of persons for whom such phenomena are not true: Sharvaka, Pratika Buddha, Bodhisattvas. Here too, it is not just any Sharvaka, any Pratika Buddha, or Bodhisattvas. It's not including all of them, but particularly here, it is those with specific characteristics, means the Arhat, the Sharvaka and the Pratika Buddha and the Bodhisattvas, who has completely abandoned all the afflictive emotions. For them, conventional realities are not true. So one such feature is the direct realizations that all conditioned things are just like reflections, in that although devoid of intrinsic existence, they appears as such. So reflections appears as such to exclude the Bodhisattvas below the seventh ground, Sharvaka and Pratika Buddhas, on the learner stage. Right? So learner stage, the steam eater, once returner, non-returner, right? So, so these are seven ground in the learner stage, who also have these realizations that three individuals are also described in the commentaries as having elements of the afflictions of ignorance. Thus, we must understand these persons to include Bodhisattvas on the purified ground. Tapasattva's purified ground means the 8, 9, 10. So the very end of the 7 and 8, 9, 10 is called purified state. So they so those Bodhisattvas, in their mind, there is no any seed of the afflictive emotions. Right? Purified ground, the Sharvaka and the Pratika Buddhas are arhats. It is from the perspective of these three that phenomena remain untrue. So now you see why, how do you, people may think, how it is possible, when they see the color, sound, smell, taste, the textures, and then the concept, the relations of the cause and effect, and the concept of the nations, countries. So how these people sees all of them are not really exist by their own essence. Every time, so things that really appears, there is no sense of any true nature in them, right? So as I mentioned, at the ordinary level, we can logically, establish or constitute the color, the sound, smell, taste, textures, do not have any essence at all. Logically, we can prove, right? But it is intellectually understandings. It's not really, firm convictions. So, so when we analyze each of them, we can prove them is not really true. Like, color, sound, smells, even the colors. Color is the reflections. And reflections, which means, if you think the reflection means reflection has to be in somewhere, or it has to be located in somewhere, and that's still untrue. Reflection, yes, is reflections. Color is the reflections, but it's not located in your eye sense power. It's not located in the form. It's not located in space or this light. But altogether, something appears as a color. So the color is not, exists from their own essence. So it's very kind of, so color, sound. I think there was chapter 15 analyzed on the sound and the color. Sound, most of the time, sounds are the first hand sound is, directly, produced by your thought and your, like from your mouth. And then right after this, all echoes, right? So anyway, 7 elements remain untruths. That which is untrue includes, as the phrase this, in fact, suggested outer and inner phenomena. The reason they are untrue for these beings, two arhats and the Bodhisattvas above the 7 bhumis, given that ignorance grasping at true existence has ceased for them. So therefore, this passage from the commentaries established how the outer and inner phenomena remains untrue from the perspective of the convention, samriddhi, of these 3 kind of person. So since the commentary in no way established these phenomena to be not conventional truth for these beings, other than demonstrating them to be untrue for them. Those who read this passage as demonstrating these phenomena are not conventional truth. For the three persons exposed at the great, what's that? Prudence?
Crudeness.
Huh?
Crude?
Uh-huh.
Crudeness.
Crudeness. Crudeness means
Kind of vulgar, crude, or not polished, not refined.
exposed as a crude. In their intelligence engagement, this is therefore an inferior standpoint whereby the intention of the master Chandrakirti is what's that? Solid?
Soil.
Yeah, soiled by the stain of their own feeble intelligence. Yeah, maybe there's some master may say that, so the conventional realities are like vast, the sound, smell, taste are not conventional truth for the three person, because so it's not a conventional truth because these three do not see them a truly existence. So Lama Tsongkapha says that is misunderstanding or contaminating the passage. So like mirage image is a conventional truth, but it's not true for the conventional knowledge, right? So it's not being true for the conventional knowledge. That is not going to prove the mirage image is not a conventional truth. Similarly, the sound, smell, taste are not true for the Bodhisattvas above the seven bhumi, but still it is the conventional truth. Right? So the definition of the conventional truth, conventionals here is relatively existing, and then it is true for the true for the misconceptions. Right? So Nyawracha is the contaminating, expose the great contaminations in their intellectual engagement. This is therefore the inferior standpoint whereby this intention of the master Chandrakirti is soiled by stain of their own feeble, so their kind of weak intelligence. So this is like, pizza is not delicious because, one who is full, they don't really find it tasty. So it's like, when you get hungry, you find it tasty. So, right? So that does not prove the pizza is not tasty. So it is not that these phenomena are being demonstrated as untrue to be three kind of person for their benefit. It is for people like ourselves. So the proving, conventional realities are untrue for these three person, is to establish that. So if they, for them, there is no need to establish they are not true. So for us, it's need to prove that it is true for our mind. It is not true for Bodhisattva, seven bhumis mind. So people like ourselves, that these phenomena are demonstrated to be untrue from the perspective of the three kind of persons. So like two Arhat and one Bodhisattvas, right? So one Bodhisattvas in purified ground. So as for three kind of persons, as for beings who are other than the three classes and below them, they all possess innate grasping at the true existence. And so nothing can be demonstrated to be devoid of true existence from the perspective of any of their conventions. So other than every sentient beings, see the conventionals are truly existence. So now, if the meaning is not explained above, and what it is the case that these phenomena are being shown to not be conventional truth for the individuals, then the rational presented right would become the totally irrelevant. For to establish and via an instant, what's the via?
Like by way,
Yeah.
like because of this, then through this way.
Okay. Where an instance of the cognitions that a particular things is conventional truth, that thing need to be established as a false, and so to cite absence of the clinging to true existence as a reason, in that case would be what's that? Laughable, yeah. So Lama Tsongkapha was, yeah. When Lama Tsongkapha can laugh. So, so we don't say there is. So the reason why the fact need to be established as a false to be established, the conventional truth, by an instance of cognition is this: when the meaning of the truth is understood in the context of the conventional truth. For examples, verse and so on, we need to bear in mind two senses of the term truth. One from the perspective of the subject for the cognitions, and other in the objective sense. So when one sees their truth is not presented in the objective sense, but presented as a true merely from the perspective of the grasping of true existence. A concealer, Samriti one, come to cognize that without such qualifications, phenomena do not possess the existence, are instead seen to be false. So the true natures from the true truth is from the two point of views, one from the subjective, one the objective. So what we are negating is objective, and why it is called conventional as a conventional truth. So it's because of the subjective. So your mind is still under the influence of the ignorance. So therefore, it is called conventional truths. So in the definitions, there's the truth, right? So within the definitions, the conventional truth, that the term truth is because of your mind, not because of the object themselves that truly exist. So do you see now, there are, there's something is not like, there's a, so generally there's the sentient beings, the ordinary sentient beings and the noble beings, and then above the noble beings, some are arhats, and the bodhisattvas in the pure ground, purified grounds. So, what is the difference? Here in ordinary sentient beings, in the Buddhist, the Sharvaka and the Pratika Buddhas in the learner stage, and the Bodhisattvas who has not yet abandoned all the afflictive emotions. Right? So, saying that ordinary sentient beings, we are like, so when the magician plays their trick, the audience, ordinary sentient beings like the audience, right? They get excited, they get, fear. And so because of this illusion play before you, and you get excited because you see them as something really happening. Now the magicians who is making this, is a conjurations. So the magicians like those learner stage noble beings. So they know these are not true, but they too appears they truly exist. But they have understanding this does not truly exist. Right? And then the third persons who is not involved as a, or not in the audience, not in the magician, and the third person who cannot be deceived their mind. So they see as it is. So for them, it is a conventional, it's a relatively existing, but there is no true nature at all. So you see, when you do when you do the praying, saying the refuge formulas, so we have to imagine those things. These part of noble beings, and then above that, the noble beings who are free from that afflictive emotions, and then the enlightened beings. Right? So when you have this kind of understanding, the bear in mind, and then doing one's refuge formulas is very powerful. Right?
Refuge.
Like I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sanghas. This kind of, even one single line has so much power. So otherwise, like ordinary sentient beings, like audience, the illusion horse is real horse, illusion elephant is real elephant. So, so when we say the refuge formula without any imagination, or we think, oh, this Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is like those books are the Dharma, these stations is the Buddha, and these whole monks are Sangha, right? So, so taking refuge to the Sangha who are, already on the path, they have, they have gained this wisdom that understands nothing truly existence, or the Sangha whose mind is totally free from the afflictive emotions. Right? So I think that's very, very important here. Usually in Hindi language, Sangha is a gathering, assembly, Sangha. Right? In India, there's a satsang. Satsang, many people gather and do the prayers, satsang. Or one may preach, reading the Bhagavad Gita or the Ramayana, everybody listening. So that's called satsang. So here's the Sangha, Gindu, In Tibetan, I think translate, not literally translate from Sangha in Tibetan. So Tibetan Gendu means aspiring, Gewa, here's a Gewa is the virtue, Dum is aspirations. So here the Gewa is referring to, wisdom, the noble wisdom. Someone who has aspired or in this, realizations, high realizations, noble wisdom, or noble I. Right? So which means referring to the noble beings, and then, arhats. In Sanskrit, just a sangha, it's a gathering. So the gathering comes, the concept that is like when the Buddha teach the Dharma, and all the monks, the bhikshus gathers. So from the gathering, this comes the name of the Sangha. And then if we go a little bit specific, the Sangha means one who is cultivating, gathering virtues, knowledge as a Sangha. Right? So and also, that's the one thing, the Sangha. And another, like particularly when Buddha as a Sangha means, is the combination of person and enlightened, omniscient mind. So it's a combination together, as we call Shakyamuni Buddha, right? So Bodhisattvas. So Sangha. So I think in Tibetan we do not really, we haven't literally translated the Sangha. Maybe it's not making much sense in Tibetan languages. So Tibetan says Gendu. So so maybe we gather a lot. So so it doesn't have any significant meaning there. So in each terms in those time, Chizondeze and Swanze Gambos, the great translators from the Tibet. So in the presence of many Indian scholars, they translate. And sometimes it's not really literally, translation not making sense much. So they come up with new vocabularies. They're continuously creating it. So a unique presentation of the afflictions. So unique presentation of the afflictions. In the Prasangika schools, from the Prasangika schools, their understanding of what is the afflictive emotions is a unique, or it is different from the other school of thought. So Lama Tsongkapha says, I feel it is crucial to recognize that these traditions has an identification of the afflictions that is distinct from the upper and the lower Abhidhamma systems. So Abhidhamma system has two upper and lower Abhidhamma systems. So Abhidhammas, the Vasubandhu's text called Abhidhamma, and Asanga's text called Abhidhamma. Vasubandhu and Asanga.
Same time.
Not same time. The Asangas, the Ngobakundu is a lot Mahayana, Mahayana traditions. Vasubandhis is Theravadan traditions. Theravadan traditions or the Hera traditions. So the distinct from the both of them upper and lower Abhidharma systems. Usually it's Chöngomba. Abhis means realizations, it's wisdom. Right? In general, the grasping a true existence of things is twofold: grasping a true existence of the person and the grasping at the true existence of the phenomena. So it was already mentioned above that Chandrakirtis also consider these two to be the two types of grasping at self-existence. Chandrakirti describes that such grasping at true existing as the afflicted ignorance. So both in his commentary, Entering in the Middle Way, and his commentary on the 400 stanzas, he stated furthermore that such ignorance has been eliminated, right, by the Sharvaka and the Pratika Buddha's arhat. So this is the kind of big debate between this different school of thoughts. So, like the Asanga's text, so kind of make saying that grasping at self is the afflictive emotions. The grasping at phenomena is not necessarily afflictive emotions. It is the misconceptions are still not afflictions. So and Chandrakirti says the grasping of self or person, grasping of self or phenomena are both afflictions. Because afflictions, but the object, the object is different. One is focusing on the person truly exists. One is focusing on the phenomena, right? Other than the person, like body, feeling, formations, and then the outer element, color, sound, smells. So there is some kind of sense of self. This always projected by mind. So we say table itself, tree itself, leaf itself, sprout itself, relation of itself. So there's some kind of self that continues imposing by your mind, right? So it's the same thing, the same way looking at the body and imposing the self. That's called me, it's a person. And imposing the self on the color, sound, smells. It's not, this is not me, but it's mine. Right. So the Chandrakirti in the Buddha Palitas, so they assert that the grasping of self of person, grasping of self of the person, phenomena are both equally the afflictions. So that's why it's a unique presentation of the afflictions. And also when you read,
This is the only, Prasangika is the only school that sees it this way.
Yeah. Prasangika is the only, within the school of thought, in the Buddhists, only the Prasangika school thinks that the self, the existing on the person, with phenomena are both afflictions. So when you read that in the Rice Setting Sutras, and also the Rice Setting Sutra says the grasping of self, person, or phenomena both are, and this is equally. There are, it is the pain, it is the cancer. So which means, so the cancer and pain means, it is totally misunderstood about the reality, and it is the one conditioning the suffering in you. So it afflicting the mind. So misconception, every misconception afflicts the mind. So that's why I say in the means, valid and invalid. The valid cognitions brings the happiness. Invalid cognitions brings the suffering. So the immediate result of the valid cognitions brings the peace. And then, what's that? The indirect result of the valid cognitions are like liberations, enlightenment. So I think this, this is concluding that the suffering is due to misperceptions, misunderstandings. So he stated furthermore that such ignorance has been eliminated by Sharvaka and Pratika Buddha Arhat. And in his commentary on the 400 stanzas, he stated Bodhisattvas that have obtained forbearance towards the unborn natures have also eliminated such ignorance. So the Sharvaka Arhat, Pratika Buddha Arhat, and the Bodhisattvas who obtained the forbearance of unborn natures. We call gaining forbearance or forbearance of non-arising, right? Non-arising and unarising of the things. So forbearance here means, kind of here as a deep realization, deep convictions, right? So that, you gain some kind of, unshakable convictions about things do not arise intrinsically. So why it's called forbearance? So sometimes it's called patient, chilling, So as I always say, the three kind of patience, right? Patient with, what's that? Patience that disregards the suffering, patience that through accepting the suffering, and then the last one is chillingism, the patient with realizations, right? So, which opposite side is impatient with, ordinary suffering, impatient with ordinary suffering, and the impatient with unkind mind, impatient with, ignorance of, I think, not knowing the. So this is like, when you try to understand something, you could not understand. You try and try many times, and that is also impatience. You are not being able to penetrate that ignorance. So these are the impatience. So particularly here, the patience or the forbearance, so towards the unborn nature. So, which means, another word, it means that, overcoming the ignorance. So you gain forbearance, you gain perfect patience, unshakable patience. Because your mind cannot be shaken by, confusions or ignorance. So the Bodhisattvas who obtain the forbearance towards the unborn natures means Bodhisattvas, the final Bodhisattvas of the 7 bhumi and 8 bhumi and 9 bhumi and 10 bhumis. So eliminate such ignorance. Therefore, this afflicted ignorance is the force opposing the knowledge of suchness. So ignorance, therefore, this afflicted ignorance is force, right? Opposing the knowledge of suchness, is the opposite of the knowledge. Right? Namely, no self, opposite of such knowledge, in turn, should not be understood as a mere absence of knowledge or some such. Some such. Or some such means.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Something similar.
So it should be understood a direct opposite for it reify, right? The person and the phenomena intrinsically exists. Understood thus, effication of the self-existing of phenomena is considered the afflicted ignorance, and the twin grasping at the intrinsic existence of I and mine constitute the identity view. So in this respect, on how identity view is defined, this Chandrakirti traditions diverge from that of the Abhidhammas. So the Abhidhamma, in Abhidhammas, there's a, they kind of, assert that the misconceptions, like, grasping a truly existing of the color, sound, smell, textures are not necessarily to be afflictions. They are not afflicted ignorance. So then they set the example, why afflicted the grasping of self or phenomena are not, grasping, is not an afflicted ignorance. So then this is, and during the Buddha, Shariputra's once, he could not see the one of the bhikshus and his potential gaining arhat in this life. And Mongol Putras, he tried to see through the clairvoyance the way his mother has born. So he could not figure out where his mother has born. So he asked the Buddha. So Abhidhamma says that's the of non-afflicted ignorance. So even the arhat has non-afflicted ignorance. So the Prasangika school says ignorance is not necessary to be. Not knowing is not the ignorance, right? Is actively grasping something that is not true, and here the ignorant means, right? So if someone asks, what is there's many things behind me, the back of the me, right? There's things may not be seen by me, not be known by me, but it's not ignorance. Because it's not a misconceptions, it's unknown. So unknown and no knowledge is not ignorance. The ignorance here is actively grasping, apprehending something that is not exist at all. Like believing in Atmas is ignorance. Right? So permanent I is exist. Right? Or eternal soul. So that's the very ignorance. It's not knowing someone coming tomorrow is not ignorance. Right?
That kind of goes back to how omniscience is about
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
the object as it is, not seeing into the future or knowing all things, like we have talked about in another class, right?
Omniscience, omniscience is not only the opposite of ignorance, it is all knowers called. All knowers. Within one instant, and understands, knows everything. Right? So those arhat have no ignorance, but they have many things that unknown. So they can be overcome that unknown by attaining the enlightenment, great enlightenment. When they become the Buddha, they become all knowers. Right? So, for example, if you are, so when you are in a home, if someone knocked the door, you couldn't hear. It's not because you are ignorance. So the ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. So the opposite of knowledge understand the reality as it is, and ignorance is the opposite of that. And apprehending or perceiving something as a thing, and the reality, it is non-existence. So the not existing as the existing is the opposite of knowledge. Otherwise, not knowing is ignorance. Then your tables, walls, house, trees, they have many ignorance. They do not know, right? So this house is biggest ignorance. It had no sense of knowing that I'm here. So 10 years, 12 years, 10 years, the house has no idea who is in my room. So sometimes people says the patient is not angry. So not angry is not a patience. So not angry, the stone has no angry, right? So the stone has no patience. Right? The patient has to be opposite of, acceptance and unacceptance. Right? You are not be able to stand for that, and you are accepting that thing with you. So not angry is also a, what do you call it? Apathy, right? A passive, very passive,
Indifferent.
indifferent. So they it's not because they have patience. So they don't really react. They're too tired, or maybe right something. So that's why they are not really reacting aggressively, not because of their patience. So yeah, it's a unique presentation with afflictions. So Prasangika school says like a patient, compassion, and then ignorance. They have opposite of that, right? So the Abhidharma traditions, as found in the 9 chapters of Vasubandhu's Treasure of Abhidharma's auto commentary, on the other hand, identifies that grasp at I and the identified view that grasp at mind is identifies to be viewing the things conceived as a mind belonging to such persons. So the way identity view is defined is very different. So now, although the grasping at person as self-sufficient, the substantial reality is found in these whose mind are not tempered by philosophical thinking. Grasping at person as entities separate from the aggregates are distinct, the characteristic does not exist in those whose mind are not conditioned by the philosophy. So even the respect to the view grasping at extreme, there are 2 types. So according to the Abhidharma text, the grasping a self or person is viewing the self-sufficient I. The self-sufficient I in the Prasangika school, the self-sufficient I is still considered is the innate, right? Self-sufficient. There's a me. There's a me that is, intrinsic. That me that is by itself substantially, own this body, own this I and feeling and thoughts. My thought, my I, my feeling, my bodies, right? So that means there is innate grasping of self-sufficient. So the self-sufficient also grow on the basis of, intrinsic characteristic of I. So it layers. There's a one first. The first layer is, viewing the self is intrinsic, and the second layer is grasping that very self is self-sufficiently exists. Right? It's independent, right? So now Prasangika schools that can be innate, but but philosophically, intellectually, trying to figure out how the self is different from the body and feeling. So that is only only exists in those people who is philosophical, right? It's not like cow herders, So like animals. So animals do have the self-sufficient I, but they don't have sense of believing there is independent I that is different from body and feeling and perceptions. Right? That only comes when you intellectually project something, right? And trying to establish the Atmas, right? So this is called imputed, misconceptions. imputed misconceptions. What is another word for that? Imputed is artificial. Artificial, right? Artificial. So many of those philosophical, point of views are very much artificials. That is, built based on innate misconception. Like, concept of Atma is, asserted to be independent and permanent, right? And because we have innate, way of viewing the self that is independent from the body as an ownership. So they're trying to prove that is true by, through the invalid reasoning. And then they have this idea, Atma, right? I think, and right now there's artificial intelligence. So they're trying to, there's many people that project that artificial intelligence is independently, it can think, right? Independently, it can think. So artificial intelligence is a program and then working from what you have programmed. So it has no independent mind, independent thinking. So you wish there's someone or something that can correct you, right? Or help you, or, facilitate in any doing things. So this is your wish, and next independent your projections. Because of your wish, you project that, right? So it's similar, Atma is like that. There is an innate feeling of independent I, and based on that, and you sort of saying, oh, we all feel there is me, right? There's me that own this body, feeling and thought and perceptions. And that is me that after the death of this body goes to next life. So that kind of innate projection, that's innate projections. And based with that, and you're trying to prove this is true, this is the right perceptions. And say, oh, self or person is not the body, not the feeling, not the thought. So if this is not the body, not the thought, not the perceptions, therefore it has to be independent. Right? So in that case, a forest as a singular, that also has to be independent from the trees. A nation has to be independent for the individual. Because a forest is not the mango tree, nor the cypress tree, nor the eucalyptus tree, right? So does that mean a forest as a singular, it is independent from the rest of the trees? So if it's independent, then it is like apple and orange. You can eat the apple, leave the orange. You can, destroy all the trees and just keep the forest. So so Abhidhamma is pretty much ignorance means not knowing. Mere not knowing is ignorance. So then we can easily, dispute. Is your table ignorance? and not knowing anything, and hot or cold, anything they put on the table. Table has no sense of knowing. So does that mean table is ignorant? Right. Because it's not knowing. Your spoon is ignorance. Ignorant. So if you put in hot water, it has no sense of knowing. In cold waters, no sense of knowing. Right. So this is why the ignorance here is Rigpa means Rigpa means realizations. Opposite of the realizations. So opposite of the realizations, what is the realizations that ignorance stands opposite of that? The realizations understands nothing truly exists. Now ignorance has to be opposite of that. Things truly exist. Things intrinsically exist. Right? That is ignorance. Right? In the Chandrakirti, his auto commentaries, and there's one line that says, if someone asks the Vasubandha, like Dharmakritis, Dignakas, do they understand this profound dependent originations? And he says, definitely not. Right. I can say, Chandrakirti says that. They're great logicians. They don't really understand these profound dependent originations. If this and someone claim like this in another religion, he make you hanged. So yeah, extreme two ways. If this is so, one might ask, how would you prove to those whose mind, who's maintain the person and phenomena to exist through their own intrinsic characteristic, that grasping as such constitute afflicted ignorance and they represent the two falls of grasping as self-existence. How you prove maintains the person or the phenomena to exist through their own characteristics that grasping as such constitute afflict ignorance. So how do you prove that? Reply, now insofar the intrinsic essence, existence of the person and phenomena is concerned, this will be negated by those reasoning that refute it. And when this happens, apprehending things in such terms as a true existence will come to be established, erroneous, with respect to its apprehended objects. When this is established, then grasping at the true existing of the person and phenomena will come to it, confirm, right? Constituting the two false grasping at self-existence. So, yeah. So this is why it's kind of this thing is afflicted ignorance. Once these facts are confirmed, then the grasping at true existence will come to be affirmed as the force directly opposing the knowledge of suchness. And as such, it will understood to be a form of ignorance, since it can be shown that as long as such ignorance, the grasping intrinsic existence, does not cease, identity view of two will not come to an end. So this leads to the conclusions that such ignorance is indeed an afflicted ignorance. Thus, it is critical to understand how to define the Chandrakirti's unique presentation of afflictions. So now what is so now the ignorance proving this, the grasping a truly existing of the phenomena, Chandrakirti says, as long as this grasping a truly existing of the phenomena remains, there is always, possible of actively grasping of intrinsic existing of I. So grasping intrinsic I is not being able to eliminate, once the grasping a self person is not eliminated. So that's why it is afflicted ignorance. So when you see the body is truly existence, with that you have the self, a person is truly existence. So when you find the body, feeling, discrimination, awareness, perceptions, mental formation, all of these, the four aggregates, do not truly exist, and overcoming the grasping truly existing of the four aggregates or the five aggregates, right? Then there is no possible of actively grasping of intrinsic nature, intrinsic existence of I, of the person. Because the abhidhammas, in ignorance, non-deluded ignorance, is not knowing. So here is saying this grasping of truly existing of the body is, it remains, with the grasping self person. So anger and attachments are, I think this is the very obvious. The anger attachments as afflicted emotions, because the moment that anger and attachment, they manifest or active, and there is discomfort. So that's easily you can say is afflicted emotion. And then the second here is, as long as the grasping itself as intrinsic natures, so that become the at the root, right? It is the root for anger and attachment. Because anger and attachment arises, sometimes it says, is provoked by the grasping of self of person, and it is depending on the grasping of self of person. The grasping of self of person is also, arises with grasping of self of phenomena, and so this is the ignorance is, the grasping of truly existing is focusing on the person and become, misconceptions, and the misconception of the grasping of self person, and focus on the body or table or relations, and then become the grasping self phenomena. So just objects change. The way grasping, way apprehends the opposite of the reality is the same. So Chandrakirti is proving this, the grasping self, the person, the phenomena are both equally afflicted ignorance. The way other afflictions such as attachment operate on the basis of the delusions, the grasping a true existence is explained in the 400 stanzas and its commentaries as follows. Just like the body faculty in the entire body, the delusions reside in the afflictions. Like eye sense power, nose sense power, tongue sense power, all are reside in body sense power. So the body sense power is the one that holds all these sense faculties. So the ignorance is the one is like a body faculties, sense faculty. So within there's an anger attachment like that. So now, in order for find the way to eliminate anger and attachment, you have to eliminate the grasping a truly existing person and this phenomena. So Chandrakirti commentary on this line says the delusions refer to ignorance, for it apprehends things as real. As such, it operates by way of exaggerations, superimposing truly existing natures upon things. Attachment and so on also operate by thoroughly attributing the qualities of the attractiveness and unattractiveness upon the nature of the things that imputed by the delusions. So delusions here are grasping self, person, and phenomena. So, and such, they do not operate independently of the delusions. Furthermore, they are contingent to it on the delusions, and the delusions is primary factors. So this is like, anger and attachments, the afflictive emotions are fed by this grasping of a truly existing person and phenomena. So if you stop feeding them, and they will die. So these afflictive emotions survive by depending upon feeding with this ignorance. So it is a depending, it is, so the anger arises and, active and feeding with this, the truly existing of person and truly existing of phenomena. And in anger, attachment also, the same way it is fed by this ignorance. And then where it arises as opposite directions. One is detached, one is attached. Right? But both see the solid target. Yeah. Any questions?
Intellectually seems to make sense, but it requires a lot of
It's not really landing. And drifting on. So that's why I think, I've mentioned once, the four reliance. The first saying, teachers, and then compared to the teaching, do not rely on teachers, rely on teachings. So within the teachings, right, and the definitive or interpretable too, and you should rely on definitive, not the interpretable teachings. So within the definite teachings against intellectual understanding and the realizations with experience, and then you say don't rely on intellectuals, rely on experience. So that's why it's called full reliance. I think this has pretty much explained. Many people confused, have gurus and says the guru is not behaving. When the guru is not behaving right, and I have difficulty accepting it, I cannot deny him. So then I almost like things that you bought by paying too much, but you cannot get rid of it. So the gurus become the burden for them. So the four line, it says, you don't have to rely on that. Right? So first you rely on to get the information. Once you got the information, you understand that, try to understand that, you can rely on that teaching or the understanding. Right? So compared to the guru is not important. Understanding is more important. So within the understanding, there's the interpretable and the definitive. Right? And don't too much rely on interpretable and more rely on definitives. Within the definitives, intellectual and experience. And experience is more important. So you have many gurus, right? You don't have to, stuck with one thing. So definite gurus is like understanding impermanence is the, main guru, main teachers, and understanding and accepting the law and cause and effect. These are the guru that stays in you all the time, and so always helps you to guide or direct you. So and the guru also translates Tibetan differently. So in Hindi, just a guru. There's not much from the word itself. Is not much meaning. So Tibetan translate is shenye. She nye. Nye is reliable, friendly, or some kind of. She means one who understands. So you're relying on someone who understands. So which means you can say almost like because of the knowledge you're relying on. If because of the knowledge you rely on, why not you rely more to the knowledge? Right?
Another thing that I think, not that it makes it harder to understand, but like I have a lot of friends who they don't practice Dharma, but they seem to have an understanding of like the two truths where also like time, they say, oh, well, time doesn't really exist, but they acknowledge it. But it's almost kind of like nowadays in like the non-religious, like overall, it just kind of like ignores that and just is like, oh, I know this isn't real, but I'm going to pretend like it is. It's very strange, and sometimes it's, I don't know, like.
Yeah, I think this is the this is the kind of reactions and a little bit kind of excited. This is like when you go to movie theater, when you see the Jet Li or Jackie Chan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and after you finish the movie and you come out, you just do things like that.
Uh-huh.
So because you're kind of, there's some kind of fascinations, some kind of excitement.
You know the movie's not real. But
Yes, but there's something you have a certain move in your only, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 1 hour you forgot. So
Yeah.
So when you watch the sad movie, very emotional, you have a little bit, when you get out from there, so there's a little bit sadness there. And then now 1 hour, you have a lunch and you forgot it. So this is like, when you see this kind of, many different varieties of the informations, you just react on them. You're not really digging into it.
And it lacks.
Yeah.
It lacks wisdom. It lacks like.
It's not. There's no persistent. There's no. There's no persistent. There's no really enthusiastically trying to obtain something. Just like what you call in the mold pure bodies scent, right?
Oh, okay.
So you just it's just mistakes for a minute, hour, and 2 hours. So then it's go away.
Oh, like the tester, like when you walk through the mall.
Like the perfume. What's it? Perfume. So buying perfume. So just similar. Oh, I have orange flavors. I have this flavors. So yeah. So especially in this, really a lot happen when you are studying. You get excited. So everybody get excited because of new idea, new thoughts. But some people and really kind of have interest, the keen interest, and they're trying to go further and further and deeper and deeper. So that's legs in the students. And the most,
It also seems like a lot of it has to deal with like the larger world being very interested in science, how science is heavily intellectual.
Yeah.
How it is. It can almost only strictly be reading books and understanding something intellectually.
This very much same even in the monasteries. In the studies, people get excited, and then once they go, back to the home, and then almost like, nothing happened. So some people react because of the audience. Sometimes people react like they're trying to prove they understand something. So it kind of trying to project the impression on the people. Some people, deep in there, they have this kind of, keen interest. So therefore they react. So this one of the monk. So when I first came to Gandhi monasteries, first maybe 2-3 years, I was keep looking at there's one monk. He's debating very, very, very kind of enthusiastically. Every time he stand up, just clapping. Maybe after 3 years, and one day I just go closer to him. What he's doing? He's just if when I debate with you, so before you say, and I project your answer, and I just react on that. I don't have to listen to you. That's why I noticed, this is really kind of, he was just, reacting on his own projections. So the endless debate, there is no conclusion, there is no knowledge, they're coming to you.
Seems like he knows
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. So this is like someone who's dancing on the stage. So, so yeah. So and after a few years we become so we are in one class of the Dharmakirti's text. So 1 month in the winter time we debate. So I debate a lot with him in our class. We are same. So then I noticed that so when I debate, I have a very big mouth. So I give him a nickname, the crow smart. Crows are very like this. So he was getting really upset with this. Some are very, there's a story, His Holiness, one of these, His Holiness, first he was tuition. Tuition, we call it. His Holiness, in the Potalas, when he debate at night and morning, some of the best geishas debate with him. So one of them. So after in India, he became one of the teachers, His Holiness, So each month they have they have what do you call it? Different attitude. So it looks very polite. Someone's very, very, one geisha debate with him. The geisha thought he was debating really, he was proving to this Rinpoche. And Rinpoche said, you are the one of the first, the first 20th Sharvakas, noble beings. He was very happy. Then in the text, it reads like that. Doubt and the first one is doubt. So he said, oh, this is what he's mean. So, within noble beings, there's some are doubt and some are little bit better and better, right? So you were the first of the 20th Sharvakas, noble beings. So, which means you are not smart. So,
Research this.
yeah, he has to go back and read books and again. So
Seems like pride plays a big part.
yeah.
Making you think you know what you don't really know.
Yeah. Especially some people when the lay people sees this, the way the monks doing, they think, oh, these very people's very not really behaving good. So when you study the kind of beginning to cultivating, collecting the knowledge, there's many excitement. So then you get mature, right? Some people never get mature; they keep excited, so, whole life excited. So So I think this is the really kind of because the liberation seeker means it's very serious to understand about the Buddha Dharma and Sangha, how it's possible, right? So just kind of traditionally, culturally, and believing is very shallow. It's not really powerful enough to, to tame the mind, to subdue the mind. I have one of the classmates from different monasteries. So I have so much respect to this classmate because I've never seen any anger face in this monk. Never ever. Even his friends. So every time we debate with him, I really try to be more polite with him, so show more respect. So, but sometimes not angry, very positive, behave. Sometimes not strong enough to, to go deeper understanding. But itself is a very good quality. It's not really easy. So never get angry. Even there's some kind of, maybe there's a, some turbulence, some kind of, unpleasant. May that he cannot show that. First time I met him, I thought he was very arrogant. So I debated with Lani. I pushed him many times. Have you ever seen the monks debating? See? So very aggressive, right? One time there was one of my classmates. So he's from the same village with me, from Kollega. So he belongs to seven monasteries. And we are debating. And he was very strong. He was just standing at the front, and we have five, 6 months behind. And we tried to debate. He was just he blocks us. I tried to push him. So next time I push him, and he holds him like this. And then he fell and he took my arm.
He's keeping you out of the debate.
Yeah, so that's why I have to find this. What do you call it? So weird. But this excitement is very kind of, I think this really helps you, very energizing, very happy. Some people think the monks are very angry. Not angry, it's excited. So this in Chandrakirti, in the Buddha Balidas, particularly this Prasangika school of thought. So the ignorance are afflicted, afflicted, right? Afflicted. So the afflicted ignorance, afflicted emotions, afflicted ignorance. Afflicted means it causes, what do you call it? It conditions some kind of discomfort and unpleasant or discomfort. So the moment it actives, there's a discomfort already. So in Arise-Setting Sutras, that is the moment it arises, the way this causes the discomfort is, that is the, what do you call it? Is the illness. Because the moment it arises, it makes you not happy, not comfortable. So that's why it's afflicted. So the misconception, the moment it apprehends the opposite of the reality, there's already discomfort and unpleasant is started there. And with that, misconceptions continuously feeding our emotions, and then there is, the anger and attachments, jealousies, the pride. In the mental factors, the one that is not really easy to understand is forgetfulness is considered to be, afflictive emotions. So still we need to, think why forgetfulness is delusion. Because continuously distracted your mind, and therefore it's forgetfulness, or continuously emotion attached to something, therefore there's a forgetfulness, or continuously hating someone or something, and then there's a forgetfulness. So the distractions are is still part of that ignorance. And then mental laxities. Mental laxity, right? Mental laxities is also considered as the delusion. And haughtiness. Haughtiness is I think it's not that difficult to understand. Haughtiness is, it is immediate cause for the deluded pride and laziness. Both, right? So laziness and deluded pride. So the haughtiness. Haughtiness seems, people may have misunderstanding confidence in haughtiness. So not knowing, right? And no interested in knowing. Or, you are satisfied with what you know. Right? So that kind of, that become it can sparkle immediately the anger, the, laziness of the deluded pride. So I think we should think about the confidence. And this confidence is very, very, commonly accepted as a good quality. So we still don't know what is confidence is. Right? Confident from the convictions, maybe it's good. So this is why we say, praising to the magicians at the end, make me proud with knowledge. Right? So it's confidence. Confidence that you're knowing many, you know small, but you think I have known enough. So if this is what your basis for the confidence, and then confidence is the result of the haughtiness. Yeah, any other questions? Okay. Chanju Simja Rinpoche, Majeba na Jeju, Jeba Nyamba, Mewanya, Kono, Pebbles, Onye Tawa Rinpoche, Majeba na Jeju, Jeba Nyamba, Mewanya, Kono, Pebbles, Pama Simjan Damje, Dada Dinju, Yando Tamja Tabu Tonga, Chanju Simba, Kana Sushu, Tadabu, Molam Joju, Karera Gogo, Shimas, Penda de Wama, Luju, Jeres, Dinja, Shabeside, to Danger.
May the precious Buddha mind not yet moralized. May the Buddha multiply and increase forever. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet moralized. May the Buddha multiply and increase forever. Due to all these merits, may all Father distributions have all the happiness. May all lower roads be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful transcendent Gyatso, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you much.